What's up, everybody? Your boy P. Welsh here, bringing you UFC Fight Night from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. ADESANYA versus IMAVOV. 11 fights on the card. Very happy to be back here after a week off. I think there's 8 straight weeks of UFC after this, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be kicking it off in the heavyweight division. Hamdab Abdalawab versus Jamal Pogues. I don't know how bad I butchered that name. 5-0 versus 11-4. Both gentlemen coming off a win in the heavyweight division. Pogues, comes off beat a guy. It's fighting on this card as well. It'd be really interesting to see how he does in the big arena. I know he liked the Apex the last time he fought Peterson, which I believe is his last fight. A very even matchup here. Al-Dawab, I think is Al-Wahab, I think is how I say it. I think he's got a lot of potential in there and it has the KO power, but I think that just the composure and the UFC experience from Pogues is going to be what's going to make the difference. I think he's really kind of refined himself. Will feel really comfortable fighting in that first fight of the card, and as long as he doesn't, as long as he doesn't take too much damage, I don't see. I could really see Al-Dawab. I guess that's what I remember. He fought Dontel Mays to that no decision, overturned to a no contest. That's why I remember seeing this guy in there. Failed drug test. So he did fight Mays, got turned over to a no contest. Okay. This is making more sense. I like Pogues here, man. I really do. I think it's kind of one of those things that I just think he'll be a better professional in the UFC. I think he's got that composure, the game plan, and the mindset to get in there and really and be the difference. I think if this one goes to the decision, I think Pogues gets it probably 2-1, maybe even 3-0. I think it could be a pretty decisive Pogues win here. I think he's just gonna I think he'll be very strong on his feet if he can stop the takedowns and do damage. I think his distance control is very good for his heavyweight. I think he's got really good feet. You watch him move in the octagon, he's pretty slender. I really wish him and Waldo Acosta or Cortez would fight. I think him and Pogues would be a great matchup. I think they're a lot mirror matchups, especially for I think the heavyweight's division's gonna be going. Great defense and good striking and kind of very methodical. I think that's where it's going to be kind of going in the future. And I think Pogues is going to he's kind of like I think he's kind of setting the trend there in terms of like just implementing the game plan, right? Spray from distance, light kicks, move light on your feet, avoid takedowns, really balanced big guy. Think about like an NFL offensive lineman, you know what I mean? He can just move people around, push them off, get down low, but keep his balance and base really good. I think is a good kind of, and then think about him being able to throw punches. I think that's a very good adaptation for the future of the heavyweight division. I think if something like an NFL offensive lineman, a tackle or something, have really good balance and defense against low man, be able to push off, use your arms and strength if they're trying to, attack in that kind of manner, but then really have a heavy, solid strike game and work very well with your feet at your distance and combos. It's a lot about footwork and technique, and I think Pogues has really been. I think this is why I really think it's why it's very much a pick'em instead of Pogues being a big underdog. And I just think we're gonna see it here, and I think he'll win the fight, and that's what I'm picking to start it off. Jamal Pogues, eat, let's go, boys. Going to the featherweight division, we got Bogdan Grad, 14-2, making his debut versus Lucas Alexander, 8-4, coming off a loss, 3-inch height and reach for Alexander against Bogdan Grad. I like Grad here. He's got that KO potential. Alexander is coming off a long layoff, hasn't fought in a couple years, and took an L there last time. Has fought some other guys that are pretty talented and succumbed to finishes, and I can see something like that in this situation, this fight as well. Grad is a finisher, 8 wins by knockout, 3 by submission, making his UFC debut. He did lose in the Contender Series, and he did struggle against Tom Nolan in his loss on the Contender Series previously because he had, somebody with length, which could present an option there. But I really don't feel like Alexander is that much of a a force to be reckoned with in the current state of the UFC. He's got to probably fight his way back in there. And like I said, maybe he could. I just don't see it happening, man. I think Grand is really going to come in there, look explosive, may be hungry for a finish in his debut. I like that kind of win condition versus somebody that, it's definitely a step up for him. You're always making your debut. You always worry about these people, but I think he could even be losing, get a late round finish, like Philippe Lima style against Naimov. I think there's a lot of win conditions here for Grand, and I don't want to discount them. And I think that's why I feel so strongly about picking him. This is another pick 'em. Both two fights I pick 'em to start. I really like Pogues, and I really like Grad here. I feel like it's hard to, 50-50s can go either way, but just in the ways that I'm seeing them, I feel like there's a reason why both the guys are slightly more favorites because, they're trying to create that two-way action, and I really do think some of these fights are very off in a way. I don't really know how to exactly, but I like Grad here. I think he could finish. I think he could go early. I just can see Alexander getting finished here. He has been KO'd, has been subbed, can take a lot of damage just be in a bad position and just go. I think against somebody that could be, entering their prime, trying to make a name for themselves, coming there with the, he's not unblemishable. You know what I mean? I can see him getting in there, getting hit, and just going to bed. So I got Grad here, probably by KO. I always think about, I think I learned a lesson. There is one fight I definitely picked Andre Fili over Dan Ige, and Ige got in there and just put it on Fili's chin, and I'm just like, I never underestimate that being actually an advantage for the shorter guy. Getting inside the hands and being able to throw the punch and knockout power capability, especially with somebody that's not as formidable as like even some people, even like the main event homies, right? Those are great, kickboxer strikers. Fili's, a little touch and go, touchy Fili. But I like Grad here. Let's move along, ladies and gentlemen, to one of my. I like this fight a lot on the fight card. Jazz Dervishes versus Mara Bruno Silva. It says flyweight. I don't know if Bruno Silva's making flyweight. That being said, I think it's a Bruno Silva spot. Big underdog, coming off a couple losses. Jazz Dervishes. And she's I just feel like she's a much larger, stockier fighter. Jazz Dervishes fights at a natural flyweight where Bruno Silva is a bantamweight, fought for the belt previously. She's a big fighter. Losses to Pennington and Chiesa is got her at great value here, I feel like, for anybody looking to go in, and that's why I'm actually picking her. I feel like she's a way better underdog than she is a favorite. I think she got way over her head and thought she was champ material before she even earned the champ material. So I think there's a lot of potential for her, to redeem herself in this situation. I think she really does. That's not a big popular pick. Jazz Dervishes is gonna look fired up, but I just can't see Bruno Silva going out on another bad performance against somebody that I think is good, but I don't think is necessarily matches up well against her. I just think somebody that matches up well against against Bruno Silva is somebody that can match her physically and then out-cardio her. And granted, Jazz Dervishes can definitely out-cardio her, especially if she's having to go for a bigger cut at flyweight. Really can't get a good read on where this is going to be fought at. I think it says flyweight, so I'm guessing she's going to drop. So I also think in picking this, I'm also kind of picking Bruno Silva because I anticipate a potential weight miss. Like, she tested positive before in her career, overturned the bout against Holly Holmes. So I definitely think she could be looking to gain any type of advantage against a competition. I like Bruno Silva here. I just think she'll end up being a physical force that Jazz Dervishes doesn't handle as well as other potential matchups, especially coming down a little bit from her natural, from a bigger weight class into, the flyweight. Not really a big popular pick, and I really am a big fan of Jasmine, but it's just one of those things. I think it's just going to be a tough matchup. Similar to last week with Perez and Hossa, it just is like it's just gonna be difficult. And there's always a lot of big, underdog wins from the women's division sometimes, and I think this is another one. Not always does the minus 300 win in the women's division, and that's what I learned. And we got it right last week. Let's see if we get it right here again. This is the same kind of situation that I kind of feel. So I'm not saying it's going to hit, but, with the odds. Let's see what the odds say, because the odds are going to say you have to hit 1 out of 3 to like pay off. So we got to see if we can like kind of find some edges in terms of like maybe stuff that they're missing, right? Like not even trying to gamble specifically, but just in terms of like how they hedge and make the fight. Because if there's one thing I definitely feel like the books get really hard, it's because they have to find the line to generate two-way action, and I feel like sometimes too many tickets go one way or the other, and they really don't know how to balance it when the fights are really much closer than that. This is one of those situations, as Elaine Perez Hossa was last week. Just trying to something I'm trying to take an eye out for, keep a pick on, because like there are even times when there's lower ranked women's fighters that lose minus 300 plus 200, so we're keeping an eye on it. Moving on, not a fight. Terrence McKinney versus Damir Hasdovich. Terrence McKinney 15-7 coming off a loss. We got Hasdovich 14-7 coming off a loss. Man, McKinney needs this. So I can't see McKinney's big favorite. Not saying that's a guarantee either, but you know, I like there's a reason that they're kind of feeding McKinney this fight. He came off a 20-second brutal KO to Rabovich. Kind of more of a natural welterweight, I feel like Rabovich is in a way. Versus McKinney probably didn't need to be fighting up there, and he's definitely more of a lightweight and just kind of dude. If Rabovich hits lightweight, that guy's a monster for lightweight. If that's actually his, it is. I'm pretty sure. So, that being said, I like McKinney here. He's just, I think, got a chance to redeem himself. I think he's just a much better fighter than Hasdrovich in his career and what he's been able to accomplish. You know, just in terms of competition, you know, losing to Moicano, not bad. Losing to Gigios, you know, losing the UFC guys. He just hasn't really had a monster win. And if he actually comes in there and beats McKinney, then, you know, we'll really find out a lot more about McKinney here, losing as another big-time favorite like this. But I'm picking McKinney here. I'm keeping it short and sweet. This fight could not last very long. I don't have much of a breakdown on it. I mean, I expect McKinney, but like to me, he's got a glass chin, dude. So hopefully he gets a nice KO win. Hopefully he gets a first round submission or something, does some damage, gets my guy on his back, throws in a hook, and gets a sub. I just got to pick McKinney here. I can't go against Hasdrovich. I don't even know. I don't even know what's. I really feel like he's kind of getting fed to him in a way, and if McKinney can't get it done here, then it's just like, yo, okay, we'll figure something else out. I mean, he's got the UFC experience. I could definitely see this one going to the card. It might be a finish. It might not. I just think this is one to get McKinney's freaking fight, you know, juices flowing and get him a dub. Let's move on to another great matchup here. I love this one here. Shamil Gaziev heavyweight matchup versus Thomas Peterson. 13-1 versus Peterson 9-2. Pogues beat Peterson. That's one I was talking about. But I mean, I think Gaziev has KO written all over him on this fight. I think Peterson doesn't have much in terms of ability to just dominate another heavyweight. I think he's more of a wrestler type. His striking is very subpar. Unless somehow he gasses Gaziev out in 3 rounds. Like, I don't understand how he's gonna win. I can't. I mean, this is a Gaziev spot all day. I think this is one of the more confident picks. He doesn't have to fight 5 rounds. He's got to fight a punching bag. This is really what he's gonna do. I think he's gonna do very well. I definitely can see him getting a knockout. Peterson, he just didn't look impressive in either of his first 2 fights. He lost to Pogues, didn't show anything. Beat Muhammad Usman, but I mean that's like a mirror matchup of not good fighters. Couldn't get a finish there. I mean, let's see how he's developing. He's still a pretty young fighter. I think he's about 30 years old. So hopefully this could be an opportunity for him to absolutely make a name for himself. I don't think it happens. I just, you know, feel like he kind of lacks game plan, lacks strategy, where at least we know where Gaziev is he's going to stand on the feet and he's going to absolutely try and just punch through you. Maybe Peterson gets a takedown and wins that way. I don't think he really. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm picking Gaziev here, and I mean, I don't think it'll be very close. I want Peterson to have a performance. I want him to do well. I'm rooting for him, but just being at distance, trying to get in there, taking damage, not really having the cleanest combinations, probably not being able to outstrike your opponent and then work into a takedown, something like DC style. I just can see Gaziev here finishing this man's second round. Boom shakalaka. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. One of my favorite fights on the card here. We got Faraz Zayam, 16-4, coming off a win, versus Mike Davis, 11-2, coming off a win. Mike Davis hasn't fought in quite a minute here. Last bout being Levy in 2014. Never mind. It was Borshev before that, 20. It's only one fight in over almost about 2.5, 3 years for Mike Davis here. Coming off the commentator couch versus Faraz Zayem, coming off a nice knockout against the steamroller Frivola, and I don't understand how he's an underdog here again. If anything, this should be very much a pick'em. I think Mike Davis has a very loyal fan base, being American. I think he's got a very good, following from just his days of fighting in the UFC. He's been around for a long time. I've seen the Contender Series. I think he's just got. I like Zayem here. I think he's more of a better. He's got a better clinch game. He's got a better distance game. He's got a better kick boxing game. I just think. Is Davis really going to outwork him and outdistance him and not take as much damage? I just can't see it. And I do think that Davis is a stud. Don't get me wrong. Like, I definitely can see Davis winning this fight, but I just don't think he's been as sharp. I don't think has the talented guys he has fought, he has lost to. He lost to Gilbert Burns. Who's the other gentleman he just lost to? I just missed it. Sadiq Youssef, which, I mean, he's a talented fighter. So I could see Zayem making a name for himself as a talented lightweight fighter with a win over Mike Davis, as those other two men have done. Youssef falling off Gilbert Burns, but I really like Faraz Zayem here. I think as an underdog, too, a very nice underdog pick. I think it might stretch closer to pick 'em towards the, as the dates come in. But, that's why I like to get these videos out there early with the odds, because I like to see how they move over the week. That doesn't always mean that we're right or wrong. Sometimes, that's just how the market responds, and it's just the way that the numbers move in the betting market. But I just like to try and, access that as ways to help, analyze my picks, because there is one thing that I know is the lines can be wrong and big upsets do happen, especially in the UFC. Just like in the NFL, big upsets happen. I like Zayem here. Boom! Moving on. Going to the main card, ladies and gentlemen. We lost 2 fights on the card. We lost Askarov fight to visa withdrawals, and we lost Abdul Karim Al-Shawadi to withdrawals of opponents. So we're light 2 fights on this. We only got 11 fights on the card. Main card is starting against. Again, Dana could always change this, but this is what it's rolling off here. Naimov versus Ofli. Naimov 11-3 coming off a loss versus 12-3-1 coming off a loss for Ofli. Naimov coming off the loss to Lima, who's also off another win, versus Ofli. His second UFC fight, lost initial debut to KO to Marian Santos, and I like Naimov here. I don't know if he'll get the sub finish, but I could definitely see a good performance from him. I think this is one of the stronger spots, especially for a big favorite in the week. And I think there's a few guys that are absolute lock and key this weekend. Naimov is one of them. I definitely felt the same way the last time, but I also probably underestimated Felipe Lima, and I don't think this guy, Ofli, has the talent of Lima. I don't think many people do. I think Lima's a ranked prospect, at its finest. I like Naimov here. I think he'll dominate on 3. Naimov 1, 2, 3, dominate. Probably be a little bit not of the most compelling fights. That's why I definitely gonna pick Naimov. And if he gets upset and is not winning the fight, it will be even that much more exciting to watch. In terms of, that's how I kind of hedge some of these picks too, is excitement versus rooting capacity and what I'm actually going to experience watching the fights when they occur. So I'm picking Naimov here because I expect him to just be very boringly dominant. Strike, ground and pound, takedowns, just show why he's in the UFC and, avenge his last loss. I do think a lot of these guys will push for some finishes. I do think we get some finishes. I do think we get some decisions as well. But submissions, KOs on the books for this Saturday. Saudi Arabia is going to get a hell of a good show, and this is going to be just a nice dominant performance for a fan favorite. Let's go, baby. Ooh, this might be one of the most compelling fights on the card for me. You got Sayed Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Oliveira. Nurmagomedov 18-3 coming off a win versus Oliveira 21-3 coming off wins. 2-0 win is UFC versus Nurmagomedov. This is a real heat check for Oliveira. There's levels to the game and how good of a contender he is. Now, you think he's a young prospect, but truly he's 29, so I think he's got a lot of experience. We have to see how good his takedown defense is. If his takedown defense can hold up, he's got a win condition. I think he can definitely outstrike, outpower, outclass Nurmagomedov on the feet for Sayed. But if he can't take him down, it's when I'm going back and forth because this is one that I probably have to leave off somewhere. But I really do think Nurmagomedov is going to be able to edge out the win. But I think Oliveira is going to rally late and gas my guy out. I think he's going to be able to get up. I think it's just going to be very close. It's a very, I mean, it's pretty close on the favorite pick'em. But I do think a lot of people favor that wrestling, and Oliveira hasn't been exposed to that high level of wrestling yet in the UFC, and I think that's where kind of I could definitely see it going to the judges' scorecard, going to a decision, and it going to the wrestler, just dominating takedowns, control time, even if he loses aspects of the striking game, even for potentially majority of the fight, he'll win in spurts and moments and just win on points. I think that's why he's a favorite here, and I think Oliveira has a chance to really put a name out for himself in the bantamweight division there. And dude, this is we pointed him out on the video, and this is one of those fights that is going to be the absolute like heat check. This is one of the like make or break fights for the season. Very much feels like a playoff NFL matchup. Like who's going to be ascending into the rankings into the future, and who's going to be kind of just like having to go again, and make their run next year. Syed really has to make his run now. Oliveira can still take a loss and still make a run with another great knockout win. Get a good matchup again. Another good matchup coming in here for both these gentlemen. And boy, oh boy, this one should be one to just see. I think we're going to see a lot of high level scrambles. I think we'll see some very good grappling, good kicks. I think Syed has a very good underrated clinch as well. I think he's really good at controlling the fence and posture time. I don't know if he'll be able to be good enough at keeping Oliveira down, and that's where I think it gets a lot closer on the card, right? I could see him controlling some early takedowns when it's dry, getting him down, but keeping him down and holding him down long term in the fight, I don't think it would be as successful. I like Oliveira late potentially too. You get that third round finish against Sopa, who looked very good. Again, he started, Sopa just kind of gassed out. I don't know if Syed will, but he is going to have to expend a lot of energy. This is a high energy, high level fight, I feel like, in this litmus test for both these gentlemen. I think it will go to the judges' scorecard, and I think it'll be very hard to call. As I'm thinking about this, I'll probably end up passing on this one in the parlay that I place, but oh boy, oh boy. I'm going to pick Nurmagomedov because he's in the parlay. He's the one I initially picked, but I could definitely see myself taking a loss here and going for Oliveira Vinicius with a big win, a big knockout, looking late rally, even getting a finish himself on a reversal into a good spot late in the fight with an Oliveira. But that being said, I'm going to take Nurmagomedov. I just think to probably win by split decision is probably what's going to end up happening. It just is a close fight, man. This one should be really a doozy, and this one probably goes all the way. I think these guys are so competitive. It'd be hard to see one of these guys unless some Oliveira makes a mistake and gets subbed. That's something that could possibly happen. This is one of those really good fights when you can talk about anything happening, and we don't even realize it. This is why I love the UFC. I love watching all the fights, the entire fight card, and not just the main event and the main card. Because even though this one is on there, watching Oliveira progress in his last two fights makes this one even juicier for us fans that watch week in and week out. Take Nurmagomedov, but boy, oh boy, let's pay attention, baby. Oof. Got a heavyweight clash, Sergey Pavlovich versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik, 18-3. Pavlovich coming off a couple losses, surprisingly, and Rozenstruik coming into form. And I don't know how you don't pick Pavlovich here. I think he's on the rebound situation, coming off a couple wins, and Rozenstruik coming off a couple wins. I definitely think it's one of those, the guy going down, meeting the guy on the up, and they're going to meet at that intersection. But I think the better fighter wins here in Pavlovich. I think he's just an absolute death sentence in his hands. He just couldn't get close to Volkov. I think Volkov training with him, having the experience, was a terrible. I think both those guys didn't. That fight just was really weird to me. I think both gentlemen, they were offered it. They didn't want it, but then they didn't want to back down from it and accepted it. And Pavlovich, I don't think Hart was really into trying to fight Volkov, and Volkov just beat him up from distance. And I think we'll see a different Pavlovich here. I think we'll see an absolute monster. I think we'll see a first-round finish. I think we have a few KO potentials in the heavyweights. This is one of them. I just think it's one of those things where Rosenstrike just absolutely gets caught and he just goes to sleep, bro. I think Pavlovich is really, really a top heavyweight. Volkov should have beat Cyril Gane. I think those two guys are actually two of the top five, the top four, top three, maybe. You know, there's the heavyweight top is juiced, and it's just unfortunately, I think by the time next year, I didn't get to do the heavyweight video for the preview, but I mean Pavlovich and Volkov to me are 3 and 4 in the heavyweight rankings. You got Aspinall 2, Johnny Jones 1. So moving like that, I think Pavlovich gets this win here. I think he's got that top tier ability in the heavyweight division, and there's a reason why he finishes everybody. And those last two fights against Aspinall and Volkov are probably against two of the other three guys that I think he loses to. Now that we've established his echelon. He's got let's go, baby. Pavlovich here. Let's just stop talking. Moving on, lady. Ooh, I think this one's going the distance. Got Sarah Bullet Magmadev versus Michael Venom Page, 15-0 versus 22-3. And I like Venom Page here. I think moving up in the weight class is an advantage for him. I don't think they're going to wrestle at all. I think my man is going to be able to try and lay a little bit more power. And I just think he's an overall better striker, bro. The other guy's got one eye. He's going to... Dude, MVP can throw a kick that this guy just don't see. You know what I mean? KO. I really do think this is a Venom Page spot. I think he beat Holland and then lost to Gary, which was pretty understandable. But if you watch that fight back, my guy absolutely chinned Gary up, and Gary stayed up. I don't know if the bullet gets hit with that same punch. I don't know if he's staying up, bro. I really do think that Gary has one of those freaking... It's weird. There's certain cultures, I feel like, that Irish culture, there's even the Samoan culture, the Polynesian culture, they got some freaking rock chins, and they just struggle to get knocked out. And I think that kind of happened against MVP, and I think that's why I think he has a big advantage of the bullet here, even as a big underdog. I think he's a better striker. I think he's a cleaner striker. He's got way more experience. And I think he's going to really implement the game plan I think he even did. Like, there's arguably that if he could have put out, Gary, you're talking about him pushing for a title fight in a way, or, he could have been fighting Rachmanov himself, that's how close it is. If he actually, if it just touches by half a centimeter difference and it actually hits the nerve and shuts it out, I think MVP's got a chance to hit one of those. He's got a chance to hit multiple of those. I think he's got to have a chance to do a lot of damage. I really like him in this spot. I like the bullet, but I just think he's also been fed a lot of cupcakes. I think this guy, MVP, is the most talented man this man has ever fought, right? I mean, Petrosian, nothing special. Olszeniec, nothing special. Tricoli, nothing special. Bruno Silva, nothing special. You know what I mean? At this point in the last 2 years, this guy is the most special guy he's going to fight. 30 years old versus the established pro. And if MVP can't get this one, then we really have to question his legitimacy in the UFC, even fighting up a weight class. But that's why I really think he gets it done. Like I said, he lost to freaking Gary, but dude... Look at Gary's face when MVP hit him with one of those punches. If it might be the other punches, that the gloves that they're using now, that's another thing, right? That was before the gloves changed back. Dude, MVP. I like MVP here a lot. I think he's got a good chance for the big upset. I just think he's an overall better. I just think he's a better fighter. So hopefully he gets it done. Again, also his competition the last many years has been a little bit lacking versus, you can even argue against that. But I think he looked pretty good against Holland, but... Let's see. This is the MVP make-or-break fight, so I like MVP here. Let's go Venom Page in the co-main event to bring us to the main event. The last style bender, Israel Adesanya versus Nasruddin Imavov. 24-4 coming off a loss versus Imavov. 15-4 with one no contest. And boy, man, I remember when Adesanya had one loss, dude, and it was to Milosevic. Now he's got 3 more: Pereira, Strickland, and Duplessis. I don't know, man. I question Imavov sometimes. I think he's way too methodical and not but he's not rushing things. He's 28 years old and he's really picking his spots very well. And I think this might be a spot where he picked it very well to get Adesanya on a bounce back. But man, I just even his wins, I'm not super impressed with in terms of championship criteria and why I'd feel confident even picking him here. Right, the Dolish majority decision, not that impressive. He was beating up Cannonier and definitely deserved the win, if not the finish, so I'm not mad about there. But the 3-round fight against Brendan Allen, I don't understand why that's not a 5-round fight. I believe it was the co-main event on that card as well. So it really it doesn't make much sense to me because now he has to do this. Now he's doing it for Adesanya. So maybe unless you didn't want to train too much for too long to have to wait too long to recover and go again for another 5 rounder. And it was on home soil. I think this one is. It's got to be Adesanya, boys. We got to pick Izzy. I'm not picking Izzy. I'm not really believing in Imavov, even though while I do think he can win by decision on the scorecard, I just think the last style bender will get enough to get the job done. I think when Imavov has lost in his career, he has lost in situations where he has been outstruck by better people. I mean, a loss to Phil Hawes on your resume is never a good look that you can't finish glass jaws Phil Hawes, but just like all the rounds that he's fought, right? The Buckley fight, I think he got very, it was Buckley at middleweight, right? Strickland, he lost clearly, right? No contest to Curtis, I think was an eye poke or something. Um Something like that. Dolas D, Cannonier, Allen. Allen's a nice win, but again, it was very close. I believe it was a 2-1. If that fight goes 5 rounds, does he win? Who knows? I wanted to watch that. They didn't want to watch. He didn't want to fight that. So that's why I'm picking Izzy here, just because and that's why. But I also feel very strong that Imavov can win because he has been navigating hey, I ain't gotta fight the best fighters. I gotta take the easiest fight for the most money and string them together, Chael Sonnen style. So does the train get derailed here? Because I think winner gets a belt shot, maybe. I don't know, because here's the thing, right? Hamzat's there and Kyle Barallo is there. Does he go up fight light heavyweight? I don't know. I don't think Hamzat fights either of these guys. I think Hamzat fights for the belt next. So we'll figure out what happens. One of these guys can fight the loser. Even Duplessis Imavov would be nice. I would love to see that one if they win. And, Izzy Duplessis rematch. I don't know if that one would really be on the table for Izzy. I think he'd want, again, if he wins, he'd be on a title fight. I don't know. There's so much could happen in this division. Literally this fight week, and then you got the belt fighting next week. This is a make or break time for the top of the middleweight division. I know it feels like a little log jam right now, but we got to get these fights out there. Barallo, just stay patient, my homie. Something big's lurking for you, dude. Adesanya over Imavov. We'll do a quick recap here, see if we can get another monster big week here. We're going Jamal Pogues to start us off. We got Bogdan Grand. We're going to have Bruno Silva. We're going to pick McKinney. We got Gaziv and Zayam. We're going Naimov, Nurmagomedov, Pavlovich, Venom Page, and Adesanya. Like, comment, subscribe. Pick your winners in the description. Leave them in the comments if you get 100% of the fight picks right. I will send you $100. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for the support, tuning in every week. If you made it this far, take care of yourself, take care of your family. Peace and love, everybody.